But really, I think we did save three of the best for last. These three consultants are probably some of the most straightforward and honest people that I've ever met, definitely within these four walls. Like a lot of people, you'll approach a lot of people here for advice or counsel. They'll tell you what makes them look good, or they'll tell you what you want to hear, something flattering usually. Not the case with these three. It's just kind of not in their DNA, for better or worse. And we don't often get to take a peek inside of their methodology and the way they do things, because, in their honesty, they're also modest. They kind of keep that, inside their own heads. So it was nice to get some of this stuff on paper, and I know some of them were a little bit hesitant about even sharing any of that. So I appreciate the chance to take it and run with it. Let's just dive in and make it quick. First one is Mark Jones. Mark's mindset, just read all this, navigating the ups and downs, knowing they will always be present, control what I can, which is challenging some days, but worth the effort. Thankfully for me, the relationship aspect of doing business still works for the most part. Build a new relationship every day, still doing this crazy, maybe, very honest. I want to be a highly valued member of the Kimmel team, be it billings, mentoring, or whatever the extraneous tasks I'm involved in. The answer used to be in the top 5, however, that can be included unsaid in the value equation. So what is he saying here, right? Control what you can control. Building relationships still work. Money follows value. It's it's an interesting mindset. It's not quite, the tight and succinct mindset that you see from others. But, for Mark, he's got a lot going on. I think it kind of sums up the way he approaches his work every day pretty well. He comes in and controls what he controls, what he can control, and that usually keeps him in the top 5, which is impressive. His planning, like most of these big billers, it's routine, right? They do it on paper, they do it in their head. They're not putting a ton of emphasis on their planning because they know they come in, they show up, they know what they need to do. Interesting about Mark, his activity markers. He says, candidly, I want to have a great year, not necessarily defined by an exact number, but by the value I create for my clients and candidates into Kimmel. So my goals are daily, weekly, not just quarterly or yearly. I want to do this as well as I can for as long as I can at a high level. Now, he also includes his momentum. He gauges that through his send-outs and in interviews and billings. That's all pretty routine. But the most important thing, the insight that you get from this is, the first part, right? He's gauging his momentum. He's creating value, right? Creating value for Kimmel, value for his clients. He knows he's making a difference when he can feel that, and he's been doing it long enough to know, how to take that temperature. His candidate must-dos, ask about motivation, short-term, long-term goals, career and personal, and what do people say about you. If you've talked with Mark at all, you know he's probably one of the biggest people about references. He's always talking about references. And we're not talking about official references, I'm sure you all know that. We're talking about the confidential reference, calling somebody that knows him. Mark's always building a case with the candidate, right? He's calling people that he knows so that he can get insight on folks so that he's not embarrassed by a candidate, or he knows if a candidate's really going to do what they say they're going to do, and really be there for the end of the process to the offer stage. His client must-dos, urgencies, absolute wish list, the stuff that's not on the job description, right? Or maybe it's the top of the list, the job description. And why should someone want to come to work? This is an oldie but a goodie. Going down those bullet points, right? Urgency, ranking the priority for his own desk, right? He gets a lot of job orders. He gets all the call-ins for mechanical. He's got to sort through a ton. So he's got to know where that's going to fall on his priority list. So he wants to know the urgency of the client in order to rank it on his own priorities. His wish list, there's the intangibles beyond the job description, the most important keywords, right, that a lot of us that are getting better at LinkedIn Recruiter and ZoomInfo are going to use, but for him, he's passing those to Daniel probably, but he's grabbing those keywords on the wish list. And then the why, right, that's the why would someone want to come. He's developing his sales pitch, right? What can he say beyond the salary, beyond the candidate's own motivation, that's going to seal the deal in the last mile. I think that's important when you're differentiating the guys that routinely bill 400 and meet expectations, and the ones in the top 10 who are billing far beyond that. They're closing those deals there's that gap of beyond motivation, beyond the salary being right. What's the intangible? What's the career aspect to closing a deal with a candidate who may be a little bit on the fence? Habits you swear by, don't chase every search. No can be a big positive, the power of positive no. Present Kimmel as best to candidates as well as clients. Work with true confidence. This pays dividends for the rest of your career. Build the relationship first, gain trust, then move forward. Don't be a one and done. Mark's a big relationship guy. I think that's pretty well known, right? His main thing, right, is believe in yourself, believe in the skills that you have, right? If you can't believe in that, you lose your confidence. It's hard to do this job without confidence. If you can't believe in what you've accomplished here at Kimmel, right? Believe in what we've done as a business for over 40 years, right? Trust in the knowledge that we've maintained, the way that you are educated and trained here. I mean, we know better than anybody else. So working with confidence is kind of what he's saying here at the end, trust yourself and you'll do much better working with confidence than if you were just feeling around in the dark. And don't chase every search. You can get a little bit harebrained going after everything that comes across your desk. Be decisive and trust your gut on that as well. Mistakes he doesn't make, sulking. I'm letting go of the disappointments that will always be part of this business. I haven't perfected that, but I'm much better than I used to be. It gets in the way of new business and can cost you more than the deal that you lost. Also, don't work with people you just don't like. Sulking, the dip in the roller coaster, the disappointment hangover, the mental thunderstorm that comes out of nowhere in the middle of the day, whatever you guys want to call it. We all experience it. It never gets easier. You just get better at knowing how to manage it, I believe, based on what Mark's saying. So set your expectations appropriately. Know that it's going to happen to you. And it's not really about, preventing it from happening to you. It's about what do you do when it does happen? How quickly can you get over that? What strategies do you use to get yourself back on track, right? So for Mark, the mistake, he stopped sulking. Because you lost a deal, but then you're going to sulk and lose out on 3 or 4 of the next opportunities that could come across your desk. It's all about how you rebound, and Mark knows that better than anybody. He's billed over 11 million in his career. And it's crazy to realize in that 11 million, there's probably twice as much that he's lost. So that's a lot of pain to go along with a lot of pleasure with 11 million. Next one, good wine, good beer, good rum. David Goodrum, he's good getting some insights into how he runs his desk. Like I said, straightforward, simple guy, comes across in his mindset, right? I think you saw how much Mark wrote. This is how much David wrote. Get 1% better than I was yesterday, and giving and serving all my benevolent masters. He definitely had to add something, a little tongue-in-cheek in there as well. But that's David, I mean, that's his mindset as he approaches his work, right? He takes it very seriously, very straightforward. Do a little bit more than you did yesterday. Giving and serving, right? I think that's how giving and serving, I take that part, the benevolent masters part, But move on to his activity markers. He follows the tried and true numbers game, roots of the business to meet his year-end billings goal. I mean, he's looking at send outs and interviews to gauge this as well. But he's not making any illusions about what we do. He knows it's a numbers game. He knows he's got to show up every day. I think most people see him every day in the office. He's got to show up, put in his numbers for the day, trust his process, and he knows it's going to come out in the wash at the end. He's been doing, I think he is also around 11 million on his career earnings. So he's obviously been doing that to great success in a very straightforward approach for many years. Plan, no surprises here. Plans it in his head. He knows what he needs to do. Candidate must-dos. He's asking candidates, what's driving you to want to talk with me? Does your wife agree with an opportunity? Contingent on number 1 and 2, what's your salary? Base only, right? David's really just mining for the reality of the situation, which is what's the motivation, and is that motivation realistic, right? I mean, did you talk to your wife about it? That's what he means with that. Client must-dos, how many other recruiters are you already or have recently engaged? Why is this position open? And what's attractive about the company that would compel an otherwise gainfully employed candidate to consider an opportunity? David's come and talked with the new hires a lot recently, and it's, he's almost working against a lot of the things that and that you can see that in his client must-dos. He's kind of, playing devil's advocate with a client who he really wants their business, but it may not always seem that way. He's really getting to the core of, is this going to be worth my time, right? Is this an opportunity that's real, or is this company just going to waste my time and not actually going to be able to fulfill their end of the deal? So, David is not messing around when it comes to his legitimacy of clients and candidates. He determines the viability, he determines if they're placeable, and he determines if it's a good use of his time. That's the value proposition, right? Can he sell it? Is it a priority? He moves on the stuff that's only real. Habits he swears by: always recruit, vet candidates and job orders as thoroughly as possible, leave the weak behind. It goes with Commandments 1 and 11, right? Don't kid yourself. If David views everything as a numbers game, he takes the job for what it is, he knows he's always got to be recruiting. So his habit is to come in and recruit every day. He's going to find new candidates. That's going to be new numbers he can plug into his existing client base. He can continue to hit his billings goals every single year. So it makes sense. It's an attention to detail that he does uniquely possess. Mistakes he doesn't make, I don't know. He says, I don't know. Good habits and self-sabotage, ebb and flow. That's his realistic approach to this job. I mean, he runs a tight ship. He doesn't leave a lot of room for inefficiencies. He understands that his honesty is what drives him, and he's acknowledging that some of the most common mistakes that we make are self-sabotage and slacking on our good habits, slacking on what we know we need to do to come in every day and play the numbers game that this job presents to us. So he can't bat 1,000. He knows that, but he at least acknowledges it. I think that's the mistake he doesn't make, is not acknowledging that there's going to be some bad days, there's going to be some self-sabotage. You got to work against that and overcome. Last one, right? Jamie Ashburn. And Jamie's great. I think I had Jamie actually fill this one out on pen and paper because he's busy. He's focused on obtaining his goals and making sure that he's doing the job and presenting himself the right way, because he's been so successful over the course of his career. His career earnings, or I guess what's posted, is only a fraction of really what he's done with Alan McNair in the past and the empire that they built. So on his own, Jamie has proved worthy of all those accolades, all those titles. His mindset when he approaches this work: everything is a game. I can win. If I view it too seriously, it stresses me out, right? A lot of mindsets in these blueprints have been very self-serious, or just very simple, right? I gotta provide for my family, or they'll face the starving wilderness alone, that kind of stuff. Jamie's is different, right? Jamie, his approach is more lighthearted, right? This is a game, and this is a game that you all are very uniquely equipped to win, especially over your competition, right? Don't take life too seriously. You'll never get out of it alive, is that Oppenheimer quote. It's a tongue-in-cheek thing, but it dovetails with Jamie. Jamie's mindset is tongue-in-cheek as well. I mean, he knows he's got to provide for his family as well. But yeah, if you take it too seriously, that stress only builds. It only makes the losses hurt worse. You gotta keep the mind of a goldfish to continue to do this job successfully for as long as he's done it. And then what keeps me motivated, the last placement. More on that in a minute. I think that's a prescient nod to the information that he gives off a little bit later on. His activity: I don't chase, I pivot quickly when I smell the money. Same as everybody else, he's gauging his momentum through his send-outs and interviews. That's what he's looking at to understand if he's actually making progress. He's not looking at the activity numbers as much as he's looking at, am I getting people in front of people? There's the whack-a-mole approach, right? The difference is, with the whack-a-mole approach, I think we all try that at times, Jamie can recognize the conditions when the deal is right. The deal is there. That's what he means when he says smell the money. So when he sees that mole pop up, he's going to grab that one and follow it down. He knows how to do that quickly and effectively, and he makes the right decisions. And that's something that's learned over the many years of doing this job. You can't do it when you first step into this building. So that will come. It'll come with experience. That's something that Jamie's perfected. His planning, daily planning ahead, that's no surprise there. His candidate and client must-dos. His candidates: what compensation are you aiming for? Who else are you interviewing with? Engaging their motivation for the job. Very, nuts and bolts approach to the candidate must-do. He's got to determine, like he said, he moves quickly and he pivots when he smells the money. He's got to find a lot of candidates to market, and he's got to find candidates that are in the right range for his clients. So he's really making sure that the people he works with are viable for him and that they're motivated. Client: What's the salary? When do you need to make the hire? What's your typical interview gestation period? That's all about viability, right? Is the money realistic, and are they motivated to make a deal right now? Are the conditions right? Same can be said about the candidate. He's looking at those 3 points. Is the money realistic? Are they motivated to make a deal? And are the conditions right? Jamie knows he's playing a huge matchmaker game, right? The flipping the cards over and seeing if you get a match. So if viability isn't there on both sides, he's moving on to the next pairing, maybe going back to those other pairings when the viability is more right. Habit. Motivation is like a special gift that is randomly given and then taken away. When you are given that gift, make the most of it, don't squander it. That's one of those things when I'm reading a bunch of these from everybody, and you all filled these things out. That was one of the things that popped out to me that was like a, revelatory, right? It really spoke to me, and it resonated, and I think a lot of you feel that too, right? There's exceptions, right? There's people here in this building that are motivated all the time, and they're kind of crazy people. They do really well in this job, but they're great. But most of us, right, we're riding the waves of motivation that crest and fall, and Jamie's calling it out and saying, when you get that motivation, you need to make the most of it, right? This goes back to his mindset, right? What keeps me motivated? The last placement. Nothing motivates, I think, most of us like getting a deal done. That raises our confidence level, right? We can do this job, I'm one step closer to my goal, all right? That wave of motivation is something that you can ride for a little while, right? He knows, don't rest on your laurels. He's learned that over his successful career. When he feels the motivation and the confidence boost, that's the time he gets after it. That's the time he works the hardest. That's the momentum, that's the charging rhino. That's one of those themes that always comes up and throughout this company. So make it a habit to capitalize on your motivation, on that special gift. It doesn't last forever, we know that. And this job is really hard to do when you lack that motivation. Mistakes he doesn't make, I've stopped keeping hope alive for crappy candidates. I've heard that came up a lot in these big billers, right? Be decisive about the crappy candidates, right? Don't kid yourself. Don't let go and embrace the unknown of finding and recruiting a new candidate that's more placeable. I think maybe that's the difference, is that these folks that are perennially in the top 10, they know that they're going to find another candidate. They've been through the ringer so many times. They know they can let go of this one who's just kind of average, so-so, or maybe you're kidding yourself about him, and they know that there's another one just around the corner as long as you keep coming in and plugging away. That's the last 3 of the big billing blueprints. They're getting hung up in the wall. Thanks for sharing with me on all that. Have a great rest of your week and Halloween.